It was in this log courthouse that the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence was approved on May 20th, 1775. That must hear a huzzah or something. That act declared our independence from Great Britain more than a year before the Declaration of Independence was signed by those guys who stole our thunder up north in Philadelphia. Now, talking about our history in Mecklenburg County, we've got a long, rich history here. And it's a history that I hope that each of you will take a few minutes to learn about over the course of this year, during our sesquicentennial. Go read a book at the library about our city and our county and our Piedmont region. Study and learn it, because this history of this area and this county is your history. By living here and engaging in this county and with each other in this community, that history becomes your rich history. Whether you're an elementary school child from the suburbs or you're a college student from the inner city, that's your history. Whether you're an entrepreneur just trying to make your way and get an idea off the ground, or whether you work at one of the big banks that overshadows us, this is your history. Whether you're a recent transplant from Cincinnati or a native son from Seal Creek, this is your history. And as we have such a rich history here of constantly fighting against injustice and fighting against oppression, may we too carry that torch of liberty and freedom and fighting for equality from this day forward. And may Mecklenburg always fight against absolutism wherever it may be found. And so I say, happy 250th anniversary, and here's the 250 more. Huzzah!
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you very much, Mr. Mayor Pro-tem. We appreciate both of you. We have so much to celebrate today. The main thing we're celebrating, we're looking back in history at a couple of different events, but we want to talk now about May 20th, 1775. And I want to bring up a man who really knows a lot about it. He brought back the celebration. He and a group of hardy followers who created the May 20th Society. I want to bring up Charles Jonas. He really was one of the driving forces behind the May 20th Society. I'm very pleased to present one of the founders of the May 20th Society, Charles Jonas.
Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. Who's excited about being out of school? Yay! That's exactly right. So May 20th, 1775, our forefathers, whether you're from here or not, as Matthew was saying, stood right here and told their principals and their teachers and the people who ran this country and a faraway king, enough was enough. You wanted the freedom and right to be who you could be, to study where you wanted to study, marry whom you wanted to marry, participate in church who you wanted to go to, not where a faraway king told you. And that happened right here, right at Trade and Tryon Street. A backward country, the backwoodsmen of this area, and we were. Charlotte was not much larger than a couple city blocks. But here in the back country, we told Philadelphia, we told Boston, we told New York, we told London, enough was enough. Freedom cannot be given by the state. It is mandated by us, the people. And that's what these citizens, our forefathers and foremothers, stood up and said, we demand our individual rights and freedoms. And you study your history, and all these students down here have. Who's heard of Paul Revere? Come on, say it loud. Yeah. Who's heard of John Hancock? You guys can participate as well. Students know more than you do. Those men are what we read about in the school books, and we read about in the paper. What's not told to us are people like Thomas Polk and John McNitt Alexander and John Davidson and Captain James Jack, who in this community said that every man and woman should be free, regardless of sex or race or occupation. And that happened here. We as a community have forgotten that date. We've forgotten that moment in time, and we've ceded our own history to faraway cities and lands. Our organization was founded because after learning this history, we were a little bit embarrassed as Charlotteans that we've allowed that history to be forgotten. A history that is our history, new or old. If you look at the state flag here of North Carolina, May 20th, 1775 is on that flag. It's on the state seal. It is something that binds us together, not just as Americans, but as North Carolinians and Charlotteans. It's a date of revolution. I'll share with you, that happened in 1775, where we demanded rights and freedoms. In 1861, this state did the exact same thing. A faraway, tyrannical government was telling us what we could and could not do, that power rested beyond and not locally. And at that date, we ceded from the Union as well. Second time, this state led that effort on May 20th. And almost a century later, in 1963, we realized that even though the words were accurate, actions had not followed. And 50 years ago, on this date, the citizens of Charlotte said, you may have given rights and freedoms and civil rights to some of our citizens, but we haven't given it to everybody. And students, a little bit older of yourselves, but the students of Johnson C. Smith, on May 20th, the day of revolution in this country, and especially this city, marched on downtown Charlotte, demanding that the words of the original Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence weren't words in a document, weren't words of a certain group of people, but were words for all Americans. This date is our date. This history is our history, and shame on us for having ceded it to a faraway group of people. Stand up, celebrate your history as Charlotteans and Mecklenburgers. That's what we're trying here. That's what we're doing here today. This is a wonderful day for Charlotte. Thank you all for coming. Huzzah!
Huzzah! No one can make it come to life like Charles Jonas. Now, you are in for a treat because there's someone else who can make our history come to life. This man is a legend. He was one of the original freedom riders of the civil rights movement, the Charlotte attorney, and he is a man who really knows what he's talking about when it comes to freedom, because that's what today is all about. Today is about freedom, and it's how we as Mecklenburg County and the city of Charlotte celebrate freedom and cry freedom. I want to introduce Charles Jones and ask him to come up to the podium. Now remember, we're talking about 1963, but in 1960, we still had segregated lunch counters. Not just segregated high white linen restaurants. We had segregated lunch counters. Charles Jones is one of the people who went to the lunch counters and said, no, we're going to desegregate the lunch counters. And he's one of the men who did that, who laid the groundwork for what happened in 1963. So Mr. Jones, come on up here and talk to us about that. And while he's talking, yes, let's give him a hand. He is a legend. He is a national legend. And while he's talking, we have marchers who've been marching from Johnson C. Smith. While he's talking, our marchers are going to arrive and join us. And so we're going to see the history of 1775 and the history of 1960 and the history of 1963 come together. Mr. Jones?
A most gracious, loving, warm good day to each and every one of you. And with your kind permission, I'm going to invite the ancestors that we've been talking about to come here on the square where the Native Americans originally walked the paths, and asked them to, Grandma, Grandpa, Sister Grandma, Nosy Nellie, Brother Ned, to surround us, remind us, as each of these speakers have, of the richness of the pilgrimage that has walked in these paths. And as they do, smiling on each other because we kept the dream alive. But now if you feel a little gentle touch on your shoulder, that's them telling you to check yourself, stand up. And now at this moment, this precious moment in time, that each of us in our own ways say, Amen. I'm Charles Jones, and 53 years ago, February 9th, I was blessed to lead more than 200 students from Johnson C. Smith to walk down here and sit at Woolworth, at Kraft, which was right here, at Liggins, which was right there, Grants, and we said, wait a minute, we dress and act appropriately. Well, we can't even get a hot dog and sit and eat it because the lack of milk, whatever. And we went and sat at every lunch counter, good people up in here, February 1960.
Freedom fighter.
And they didn't know what to do, so all of them shut up for several days trying to figure out what we going to do with these people. And we were well behaved, don't misunderstand me. We were taught by our ancestors, so we were nonviolent, sometimes maybe articulate. And finally, we went to the city council and asked them to set up a biracial committee to help negotiate with these street-level folks some resolution, because we were not going to be denied, y'all. Right? They did set up the biracial committee. We established a boycott now, and the major people were losing so much money that they finally said, "Wait a minute, we got to do something." As you tell me, you know, when I'm about 2:37, I got a call from a sister early July 1960. She said, "Bro Jones, my name is so-and-so, but don't tell anybody who I am." I said, "I got your sister, no problem." She said, "I'm a maid. I'm just a simple person. They don't even think I'm intelligent enough to understand what they said." But the power structure met last night, the mayor and the city, and as I served them, they said, "Whoa, Brother Belkin, I ain't hating. Please don't misunderstand me, right?" Say, "Wow, we got to do something. This boycott, we losing so much money." And George Ivy Jr., and I met all these people, so I'm not hating on anybody. Say, "Yeah, we got to do something, because if we don't, we're going to have to file bankruptcy." and the sister said, "Mr. Jones, that was the moon," and then all of a sudden they said, "Yeah, we're going to do the right thing." And she said, "You know what the right thing is? It's all about money, ain't nothing." 2 days later, I got a call from the mayor who said, "Mr. Jones," I was Mr. Jones, by the way, I was Charles. Said, "We've been able to arrange on the street level opening up of the lunch counters. So tomorrow, if you'd like, you can go down. We would request quiet, and you will be served." Liggins was right there. There was a drugstore, but it had lunch counters. We went. My father, Reverend J.T. Jones, and I went to Liggins, and the sister saw us. You know, maids, the help always would serve folks, but not us. I got you. So she looked and smiled and took us over to this place. And Dad and I sat, and in the last minute I got to run my mouth. I want to share this one with you. I think he ordered a tuna fish, I ordered a hot dog. Some of the worst coffee, but I ain't hating now, come on. All right? And as we sat quietly eating, Daddy looked at me and said, "Son, I'm proud of you." And I said, "Dad, I'm proud of you too, because you taught me the lessons to choose your battles. Know when to stand, but also when to walk away." And so we sat there for a moment, and at this moment in time, this was 53 years ago, as we, all of us, collectively, of all the ethnicities in this city, Charlotte, which has become one of the most diverse, each and every one, cities, not only the South, but the country, I say, as my grandma told me, may the Lord continue to take a liking to you.